Hi, everybody. It's time for another Ovaltorque story. I'm sitting here in my house with a different window behind me than the last time I talked to you, the first Ovaltorque story. And it's snowing outside. And let's see. As I recall, Buzz Eagle had just brought Ovaltorque back to the beach and left him there, saying, I think, that he would see him later, maybe the next day. And he flew off to get food for his family. Now, the issue for Ovaltorque was, and a lot of you know this, you know what this is like. He had to go home and tell his mother and his father where he'd been. And they might have been worried, especially his mom. His dad had been at work, but his mom was home. And she surely noticed that he was gone. So he trudged on home and he took a deep breath. And he walked under the rock and down the hole into their house under the rock, and no one was there. Well, maybe they were out looking for him. His dad would be home by now, he thought. And his mom, where was she? So he went back up out of his house, crawled out from under the rock. Actually, he walked out from under the rock. He was small enough so he didn't have to crawl. And he called for his mom. Mom! Mom! Mom, where are you? And he walked this way and he called, Mom, where are you? And he walked that way and he called, Mom, where are you? No answer. Oh dear, oh dear. Dad? 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 Oh, double dear. No mom, no dad. I mean, he had a mom and he had a dad. But where were they? Usually it was the other way around. They were calling him. Oh, what was he going to do? What was he going to do? Oh, well, there was really only one thing he could do, that he could think of to do. And so he went back to where he'd been that morning. And he called, Buzz, Buzz, Buzz Eagle! Buzz Eagle! And pretty soon, Buzz came flying down and landed beside him. What's the matter, Ovaltorque? What's the matter? You sound worried or upset or something. I can't find my mother and father. Where might they be? They're probably looking for me. I wasn't supposed to come down here. Oh. Well, we can go look for them. Would that help? Well, sure. You mean you'd fly around and help me look for them? Yeah, sure. Oh, and you've got really good eyes, don't you? Oh, yes. Yes, said Buzz. I've got very good eyes. Climb on. So Ovaltorque climbed on Buzz Eagle's back. And Buzz Eagle lifted his wings and pulled them down, and lifted them again and pulled them down, and lifted them again and pulled them down, and they were up in the air. And they flew off. Now, of course, they didn't fly over the ocean because his mother and father wouldn't be there. So Ovaltorque told Buzz where he lived, and Buzz flew that way and flew over the rock that they lived under, and they didn't see anything. So then Buzz started looking, and he flew in one direction a ways. Nothing, and he flew in another direction a ways. Nothing, and he flew another direction. Oh, look! What's that down there? They look sort of like you. Is that your mother and father? And Ovaltorque peered down. He couldn't see them. Buzz said, I'll go a little lower. And he flew down a little lower. And Ovaltorque said, yeah, I think that's them. Ovaltorque couldn't see as well as an eagle, but he could see it looked like two lityps, but they were up pretty high. It was hard to tell how big or small they were. So Buzz flew down a little lower and a little lower, and Ovaltorque said, yeah, keep going down, Buzz, keep going down. I think that's them. And he got a little lower, and Ovaltorque said, yes, Buzz, that's them. Oh, yes, that's them. Quick, let's go down. So Buzz flew down lower. Now Buzz knew something that Ovaltorque wasn't thinking about. What Buzz knew was that when Ovaltorque's mother and father, he thought of them as Mr. and Mrs. Lityp, when they saw him, this great big eagle, they were probably going to be scared. And he didn't want to scare them. Well, of course, he was flying very quietly. But he circled, and he circled lower, and he circled lower. And eventually, his shadow appeared on the ground, going around and around Mr. and Mrs. Ovaltorque. And around, and they saw it. And Mrs. Ovaltorque took Mr. Ovaltorque's arm and held on to it. And Mr. Ovaltorque stopped, and Mrs. Ovaltorque stopped with him. And they stood there and waited. And Buzz landed in front of them, but not too close. And they looked at Buzz. And they looked at each other. And then Ovaltorque said, Mom, Dad, it's me. It's me, Ovaltorque. And they looked. And then Ovaltorque slid off Buzz's neck. Buzz actually lowered his neck, so it was easy enough to do. And landed, boom, on the ground. And they stared at him, and he looked at them, and he smiled. And then they ran up to him, and they hugged him. Oh, they hugged him. They were so glad to see him. They'd been so worried. And Ovaltorque said, I'm sorry, but I had a great adventure, and please don't be angry. Well, Ovaltorque's father said, adventure? What do you mean, adventure? And Ovaltorque said, well, I want you to meet my friend. This is Buzz Eagle. And they remembered the big bird. And they looked up. And there he was, this magnificent big bird with a white end and white head, and white on his tail, and he was huge, and he had this big beak, and these big talons. You know what talons are, don't you? Those claws that an eagle has, and other birds. And they didn't know what to say. And Buzz Eagle bowed his head a little bit and said, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Ovaltorque? And they nodded, because lityps always call their first child, name their first child, after their name, their family name. So they were the Ovaltorques. So their son was named Ovaltorque. So his full name was Ovaltorque. I I met your son at the beach. You you met him at the beach? Ovaltorque's mother said. He was at the beach? Uh, yes, just looking at the ocean, and he called me, although he didn't realize he was calling me. Ovaltorque's father said, he called you? Well, yes. You see, my name is Buzz Eagle. And Ovaltorque, I guess, was being bothered by some sort of insect that made a buzzing sound. And so he was telling it to buzz off, I guess. And then he hollered at the top of his little lungs, buzz, buzz, buzz off. And when I heard that, I was about to go look for food for my family, and I thought someone was calling me, so I flew off looking for whoever had called me. And I saw your son, and I flew down, and I landed next to him, and then we met each other, and then he got on my back, well, actually up on my neck, and we flew out over the ocean and looked at the ocean and saw some fish, and we saw some dolphins, and we saw dilly-dally dolphin, but I talked too much. At any rate, that's how I met him, and then I brought him back to the beach. Ovaltorque's mother and father turned and looked at him, and they looked back at Buzz, and they looked at him, and they said, Ovaltorque, is this true? And Ovaltorque said, oh, yes, it was amazing. It was amazing. When I left home, I wandered off, and I got to the beach, and Buzz is right. There was a mosquito or a fly or something buzzing around me, and I kept telling it to buzz off, and then eventually Buzz came, and we met, and we talked, and he took me for a ride. We went out over the ocean, and we met Dilly Dally Dolphin, and Dilly said, come back for another visit. Ovaltorque's mother said, over the ocean? Over the ocean? And Ovaltorque said, yes, but it's okay, Mom. Buzz looks after me, and I hold on to him. It's okay. Nothing goes wrong. Oh, but you... And then she looked at her husband, Mr. Ovaltorque, and Mr. Ovaltorque looked at her and looked at Buzz and looked at Ovaltorque. And Ovaltorque had an idea. And Ovaltorque said, Dad, Mom, when you were a little Litup, a young Litup like me, what if an eagle had come along and given you a ride out over the ocean to see what it's like to see dolphins and some flying fish and who knows what else is out there in the ocean and over the ocean? Wouldn't you have loved that? Mr. Ovaltorque looked at Mrs. Ovaltorque. And Mrs. Ovaltorque looked at Mr. Ovaltorque. And they looked at Buzz, and they looked at Oval. And they looked back at each other. And they smiled. And they said, at the same time, yes, I would have liked that. So Ovaltorque wasn't in trouble. His parents were so glad to see him. And before Buzz Eagle left, and they went back to their home, under that rock in the ground. Ovaltorque hesitated, and then he said, "Is it all right with you if I meet Buzz tomorrow and we go visit Dilly Dally Dolphin?" Once again, Mr. Ovaltorque looked at Mrs. Ovaltorque, and Mrs. Ovaltorque looked at Mr. Ovaltorque, and they both looked at Buzz Eagle, and they looked at their son, and they looked at each other again and said together, "Yes, but..." Then they looked at Buzz Eagle. "Will you be very careful of our son?" And Buzz Eagle chuckled, which is sort of interesting because you rarely hear an eagle chuckle. And his shoulders and his wings shook a little. "Yes," said Buzz Eagle. "I'll be very careful. Now I must go." Ovaltorque said, "Goodbye, Buzz. I'll meet you tomorrow at the beach." And Buzz said, "Okay, you just call Buzz, Buzz, Buzz Eagle, and I'll come get you." And he raised those big wings once and brought them down, and a second time and brought them down, and a third time and lifted off into the air and flew off into the distance until they couldn't see him anymore. They went back home, and Ovaltorque told his mother and father all that had happened earlier that day with Buzz. And they both thought, what an adventure our son is having.